The reappearance of Rachel Price, the latest novel from the New York Times best-selling author Holly Jackson, takes a look at protagonist Belle and how she gets tangled in the mystery of the disappearance of her own mother, Rachel. But there are some things that might be better to leave in the box. So joining us live now is the one and only young adult true crime, or not true crime, fictional crime author,
I promise.
Holly Jackson, who's on her first ever book tour trip across the world. She's been to a bunch of places in the U.S. and now finally the tour ends in Toronto. Welcome, Holly.
Thank you so much for having me.
I know you must be exhausted.
Yeah,
so
I'm tired.
You
but
are
as we
tired.
just said, to quote the Taylor Swift, jet lag is a choice, and I'm trying to choose not to. It's fine. I've been on lots of aeroplanes, and I've had a lot of naps, so excited to be here. I don't know what time it is. I don't know what time zone I'm in.
It's about 8:19 right now in the morning, so we appreciate you being here.
Yeah.
Holly, you are just phenomenal. I know you've wanted to be a writer since you were 11 years old. You love, crime, true crime.
Yeah.
But you write the fictional crime.
Specify, because we're on TV.
Before we talk about your latest book, let's talk about A Good Girl's Guide to Murder and how the BBC is picking that up to be a TV show. I know you're heavily involved in that process, right?
I have been, yeah. It's been a while in the making. I think we sold the option maybe like 5 years ago. So it's been a while. I've been helping with the scripts and with the casting.
Yes.
We did very well with our casting, I think. Emma Myers, I'm her biggest fan. And then when we were shooting, I was on set maybe 1 or 2 days every week. So yeah, I stuck my nose in every single part that I could do. And the editing room as well.
Yeah.
I don't know if they wanted me, but I insisted on being there.
You were there, kind of like a mother overlooking her baby.
Exactly.
And your
It's
baby
my
is
baby.
Yeah, your baby's the book, and you want to make sure, you know, you're the guardian of that book.
That they're not going to mess it up, and they haven't. I can confirm.
Well, that's super exciting. So that was a multi-million-dollar best-selling book, and TikTok really has helped your career. We've got that book talk kind of hashtag.
The phenomenon.
I love how you're honest, though, in your interviews, because you're like, yeah, you know, I don't know what algorithm, you know, they use, because you're like, I read some of these books that TikTok recommends, and they're trash.
Yeah.
And yet, your book found its success on the TikTok.
And I'm sure there's some people who read my book and they go, what? This is trash, but...
No, the numbers don't lie.
As long as they've bought it, I'm happy.
Your book spent like 100 weeks on the New York Times,
Yes, I mean, it's been on the series list, because once you release 3 books, it has to go on the series list. It's been there consistently since it released. I'll be devastated when it ever falls off.
Yeah, but that's remarkable, Holly.
It is. As I like to say, you can't keep a good girl down, because it's cheesy because of the title, but it works.
And let's talk about your book, the reappearance of Rachel Price. In your Instagram, you were saying that this book is really special to you. It sounds like you think this is your best one yet. Why is that?
I think it's because it was so miserable for me to write it. It was the hardest one. So I'm hoping that's a correlation to the quality of the finished product. I think I was just really ambitious with this one, and I wanted to combine everything I'd learned from my previous books and compile it into this one and stress myself out. And I think, I'm talking to readers who have already read it, I think it's a lot of their favourite too, so I'm hoping I'm not wrong there. But yeah, this one's been, it's been fun to talk about, and it, as you said, it has that kind of true crime documentary angle with crazy fictional plot twists, and fictional, I might add. And yes, it's been really fun to talk about.
And with estranged mothers, that's always a good combination when you add that in with some crime.
Yeah, so I often find in YA books, and I'm guilty of it too, a lot of the time we will get rid of the parents because they're in the way, and we need our teenagers to go misbehave. So I wanted to kind of buck the trend a little bit and actually explore that kind of mother-daughter relationship, which is central to the whole book. And a mother who comes back from the dead after 16 years, that's going to cause some drama back at home over the breakfast table, and boy, it does.
And I love how it's told in the format of a documentary. So Holly, let's go back to, you know, the TV show that you're heavily involved in right now. When can we see it come out on BBC?
I can't tell you that.
Can't.
It's the BBC in the UK, and there is a network elsewhere. I just can't tell you when or how or who, because they will bundle me into a van and kidnap me.
Oh my gosh.
I think.
And that book took you 6 weeks to write.
A Good Girl's Guide to Murder took me about...
Was it 6
I'd
weeks?
say
Did I read that right?
I think it'd be like 10 weeks. I have written a book in 6
Oh,
weeks.
my
I wrote
goodness.
the sequel in 6 weeks, and the book I just finished writing was in 6 weeks.
Oh my gosh, Holly, that's incredible. I wish I had more time to pick your brain. If you could give one word of advice to young authors out there trying to write, what would it be?
I would say pretend you're a screenwriter and learn the rules of screenwriting, because it makes it really easy to organise your beats and your scenes.
Wow.
And makes for a cinematic book.
And yeah, and one day you might get that book turned into a TV series.
You might get an adaptation. There you go.
Wow,
That's how
Holly
you do
Jackson,
it.
such a pleasure to meet you. Congrats on all your success, and
Thank
have
you
a
so
great time
much.
here in Toronto and at your book talk with Hot Docs later this afternoon.
I know.
Pleasure to meet you.
Thank you so much
Take
for
care.
having me on.
Thank you.
They dragged me down the stairs, and then I heard 2 pops.
We don't get a lot of homicides in Markham, so it's like a grenade going off.
Investigators are not ruling out any scenario, including the possibility the men broke into the wrong home.
We're only going to have one witness, and that is the daughter, Jennifer Pan.
Why would you leave a surviving witness? It doesn't make sense. Something's not right about this.
The Jennifer
Now, I
Pan
wanna know
story
everything
rocked the
about
GTA to the core back in 2010. Pan orchestrated the murder of her mother and shooting of her father in an effort to cover up a long list of lies. And this story is now right back in the spotlight thanks to a Netflix documentary called What Jennifer Did. So joining us for a look at this is the executive producer, Jeremy Grimaldi, and co-producer Paul Nguyen. Welcome to the show, you guys. It's great to have you on to talk about this. Jeremy, I'll start with you. You wrote this book in 2016. You were a crime reporter. What, I mean, personally for you, shocked you about the Jennifer Pan story, and why did you decide to explore further with it?
Well, what shocked me was the way it unfolded, I guess, in the public spectacle. So it started off as a random home invasion. It had this city shook because it's kind of everyone's worst nightmare. Someone's driving down the street, they say, oh, they look rich, let's break in. It ended in a murder and another shooting, and the daughter was tied up. Then 2 weeks later, of course, we find out that that's not the case at all, and the daughter could be implicated. So that shocked us even more, and the whole city was watching. So it really it broke the mold in many ways.
Yeah, and Paul, you're the co-executive producer on this. Why do you think this story is number one, or this documentary has been number one on Netflix so far? What do you think about it kind of resonates with so many people, especially here in the GTA?
Well, I think it's every parent's worst nightmare to have this kind of thing happen. Also, I think people are very shocked. Jennifer is female, young. She actually looks very innocent, and she's Canadian. So I think people around the world are surprised to hear that something like this can happen in Canada.
Yeah, absolutely. And Jeremy, when I first heard about this through my sister, I was just blown away. And we get to know about it in the documentary about the lies that Jennifer constructs. And like I was telling you, it's like she created her own kind of talented Mr. Ripley situation. I mean, going to university for 4 years, her father would drive her downtown when she wasn't going to university, and just keeping up this facade of being like the perfect kind of immigrant daughter, even though she wasn't allowed to do so many of the things she wanted to do, like date her drug dealer boyfriend, Danny Wong.
Yeah, it was, if you look back, and there's so many names for her, people come up with this. She's a narcissist, she's evil, she's a fantasist. I don't know what she was, but what she definitely was is extremely talented at maintaining lies. And she was very diligent about it, very confident, and almost so confident, so diligent that she thought she could pull the wool over everyone's eyes. And in the end, it's sort of like a snowball. I relate it to a snowball rolling down a hill. It became so big that it crushed her.
Yeah.
And it crushed the family.
Oh, absolutely. And, the father is still alive. He was put into a coma. The mother, unfortunately, passed away. Paul, how difficult was it to get those police, footage of her in the interview room? Because a lot of the documentary is between, her, Danny Wong, in the police room being interviewed and interrogated. Was access to that easy? Did that take a long time?
I think, Jeremy is the one to answer that.
Yeah, I covered the case 10 months in the courtroom in Newmarket. It was the longest case in Canadian history. So getting access to that was difficult, but it was easy for me because I was there. It would have been difficult for your average reporter. We had reporters from all over the world coming in, but they'd come in one day at a time, and no one had an idea it would last for a year.
Wow.
So.
Yeah, and we know just from the documentary that those police interviews, like 3-4 hours, times 3, a lot of information to sift through and edit. Paul, I know that, the conclusion of this, Jennifer still maintains her innocence. Her, Danny Wong, and 3 other conspirators are appealing the case. They appealed the case in 2023. Her next court appearance is in June of 2024. What do you think is going to come out of it?
I'm not sure what's going to come out of it. I just hope that people who are watching this documentary can learn a thing or two. And that's, I think the breakdown happened when there was no communication between the parents and Jennifer. And I think back then mental health was not really well understood. And hopefully people can come to the table and talk to your parents and have discussions, whatever you're feeling. If something's wrong, then these kind of situations and tragedies can be avoided.
Yeah, Jeremy, I think, you don't know what to make of who she is, a narcissist or whatever, but you interview her piano teacher, an old school friend of hers, and I think what, caught my attention was her previous school friend saying, I think at the end of the day, Jennifer was a person just looking for love and validation. She felt alone, and she thought that her boyfriend was the only person who could give that to her. Like, I think his theory there, it kind of... it said something to me, but we'll see what happens with this, but a very powerful documentary. Thank you so much for joining us this morning to talk more about it. Jeremy?
Thanks for having us.
And Paul, you can catch What Jennifer Did on Netflix right now.
You're not gonna like this, but we're here to collect 2 bodies.
I already told you Dawn left.
And that's unfortunate. Oh! But the rules are the same for everybody. Think about your lives. I'm sure one of you.
All right, it's time to get a little bit more humane. Maybe we mean that ironically. That is the title of Caitlin Cronenberg's directorial feature debut. It takes place in the wake of an environmental collapse that forces humanity to shed 20% of its population. The government is trying to enlist people to sign up for their euthanasia program. And it all unfolds at a family dinner when things get a little bit chaotic after the father, played by Peter Gallagher, tells his kids that he's enlisted. So we welcome to the show Caitlin Cronenberg to talk about this film. Caitlin, first of all, congratulations.
Thank you.
I mean, you're a well-known photographer, but this is your first directing role.
It is. It's wild.
It is wild. I mean, obviously, your father, your brother are directors, but for you, this is pretty special. And what a film to come out to do.
Well, thanks. Yeah, I think if you're not going to surprise people out of the gate, then what are you doing? I mean, not really, but it's a lot of fun. I feel like this was a really fun film to take on, especially as your first feature. So I feel like I just threw myself into the fire, and now here we are.
Yeah, very fun and very dark. I recognize a lot of Canadian talent. Jay Baruchel plays one of the siblings. Emily Hampshire, of course, Peter Gallagher is the father, but also, other talents like Enrico Colantoni as Bob, the villain, and Sebastian Chacon as Noah. What was it like working with such a talented group of actors who have to play siblings, essentially kind of trying to kill each other in this house?
I mean, I think the greatest thing is that Jay and Emily have had this very, very long friendship. They've worked together many times, so they had this rapport already as friends, but they've never played siblings. They were really excited about it. So to have them anchor the family, and they have this, this shorthand with each other, and they're meant to kind of be the cliquey siblings.
Yeah.
And then the rest of the family kind of fell in line around them. But I think as a director, all you can ever hope for is a cast like this.
Yeah.
A cast of people who are so talented, so dedicated to the material. They're generous with me, they're generous with each other. I just felt blessed every single day to go to work and work with that group of people.
A lot of people know you because you designed Drake's album cover and all the art, but was there a big learning curve going from kind of that cinematic photography experience to directing? What was the most challenging part for you think?
I mean, any big job, comes with a certain amount of nerves, but the jump from still photography that is, a quick couple of days, it's intense, but you're not dealing with dialogue, you're not dealing with motion. Those things are challenging. That's why filmmaking is so challenging, because this script is wordy too. There is a lot of dialogue. There are a lot of scenes with a lot of people who say a lot of words, which is, of course, what drew me to the script. But as a director coming in and having really never directed dialogue before, I was putting so much trust into my actors, and thankfully I could do that because they are so talented. But that, I think, was the biggest, and also sort of relinquishing the control, because it wasn't me operating the camera. So to be there with the crew and say, okay, this is what's going to happen now. You guys do it. And I'm going to watch and sit here. It's a hard shift, and also everything about filmmaking is challenging. It's especially when you've got 20 days.
Yeah.
Which is what we had. But every day was fun. Every day was just like the most delicious kind of challenge.
Oh, that's awesome to hear. And it was all filmed in Hamilton as well. And you've got 2 kids, so that certainly is not easy for a working mama. But I think audiences will be pleased, and I was certainly surprised watching it. It's not what you expect.
Good.
And there's a lot of blood, I should warn you. There's a bit of blood in it.
It comes to me naturally, what can I say? But I think one of the most fun things about making a film is doing something that you would never do in real life.
Exactly. Okay, Caitlin Cronenberg, Humane is out in theaters April 26th. Catch it if you dare. Thank you so much for joining us. It's time to get into a bit of brand chatter with Tony Chapman, host of the Chatter That Matters podcast.
Of course, this is where we look back at some of the big brand stories of the week. Tony, a lot to choose from this week, but we're going to start here. This is something you pointed out. This is kind of a cute tie-in. It seems there's still an appetite for Barbie in the marketing world. We're talking Humane stepping in, and I'll let you take it from here.
Well, I love this because what this is called in consumer packaged goods is an in and out. They want to create some excitement around their brand. They want to get it off shelf and on display where all the action is. And what better than a pink Barbie sauce? And tell me, who's not going to buy that for their kids?
Barbecue. I love it. Yeah.
Wow.
I mean,
who's not, you're gonna bring that home. You're gonna have a party. And if I tell you something, if Maple Leaf Foods is listening, tie in your hot dogs and have all the fun things you could put on a hot dog, tying in with barbecue sauce. It's an absolute winner, and it's another award-winning campaign coming from Kraft with this one.
And I also noticed, Tony, they even have a miniature little one so you could play with it in your Barbie kitchen as well. Not yours probably specifically, but...
Yeah, unless you have the Barbie dream house, but very cute. For sure.
Yeah.
I could even see,
it's for your backyard, Nick.
Oh, yeah. And you're invited anytime, Tony.
Okay,
right.
Tony, moving on to another brand. Tim Hortons continues to try to cast as wide a net as possible. They're now offering pizza.
Yeah, smart move. They've tried this in the past and failed, but this is a flat bread. I'm wondering if it's even coming in frozen and heated at the restaurant for efficiency. They're doing 2 things with this. Day part, they want to get people to think about Tim Hortons after 4 o'clock, because people see that as sort of the morning coffee, afternoon caffeine kicker. And 2, more importantly, skip the dishes and Uber Eats. They want to be in that game, and that's an easy product to deliver, and it'll taste great when it arrives.
I just hope they cut all the way through it. Whenever I order a bagel, it's never cut all the way through when you're pulling out those pizza slices. But yeah, I get the point of diversification, right? You got to kind of be in the game to stay in the game, I suppose, Tony. But here's something that we're really kind of curious about this morning, and that's that Pizza kind of aligning themselves with pot, releasing new campaign, aligning itself with, the legalized cannabis market. Of course, tomorrow, if you're paying attention, folks, it's 420.
Yeah, I mean, this is, listen, Pizza was known for its phone number, and it not for quality pizza necessarily, but everybody could number. And of course, now with apps and Skip the Dishes and Uber Eats, phone numbers have disappeared. So they got to stay relevant. And they're that kind of gut fill category, which is, it's not the most gourmet pizza, but it's affordable. Doing this is, to me, so smart for the brand because, listen, there's a lot of people that are ordering pizza tied in with their cannabis consumption. And to me, the packaging of this, the roll-up, the grinder for the garlic, everything that goes with it. Yeah, I mean, the smiles and laughter that'll happen with this product, I think this is a brilliant marketing move. 3 5-star campaigns this morning on Brand Chatter.
Yeah, well,
what are you guys? You're not just eating pizza. It sounds like there's a lot of giggling going on back there.
yeah, they're lighting a pizza roll, a pre-roll.
Yeah, Bill and Sonia are really sort of embracing the whole, freshly baked out of the hot box there as well. But I mean, it's clever because not only are they tying in with 420, but all the slogans, fresh baked, hot box, and the pre-roll. Pineapple Express is one of the names. I mean, they kind of ticked all the boxes, didn't they, Tony? So are you kind of saying that nowadays, there's some sort of, maybe uptight people may be concerned about this, but we've kind of gotten beyond the, concerns or the sort of stoner stereotypes that are getting tied into pizza?
Well, a combination of two. You actually want a lot of uptight people to be really upset about this and complain and write to the media and write to the parliament and go, this is horrible. We're encouraging kids to smoke pot. And that's kind of part of what you're doing is the more you get that energy on the other side, the more you get attention on your side. So clever marketing on their part. This is not a brand that's really worried about its moral compass. This is a brand that stands for humor and fun. And again, affordable gut fill. For all those reasons, it ticks every box.
Well, we're certainly paying attention to it, so yeah.
The problem is Bill's bogarting that slice. Okay, listen, Tony Chapman, always appreciate the chats. We'll see you very soon. Have a good one.
All
Thanks,
right,
Tony.
chat soon. Thanks.
Joining us live with some of the films out this weekend is Richard Krause, host of the Last Call podcast, and our resident film critic. Richard, always great to see you.
Nice to see you.
Okay, so we are starting off with, I don't have the topics, but you can tell me which one we're starting off with.
Abigail. Let's talk about Abigail now in theaters. This is a new horror film that stars an actress that you might have seen if you saw the movie Matilda recently. You saw Alicia Weir, and she plays a 12-year-old who is kidnapped by a band of sort of misfit criminals, taken to a big gothic mansion, and they're told, the criminals, by their boss, just babysit her for 24 hours. We'll get a huge payout from her very wealthy father. And then you release her unharmed and we all walk away millionaires. Turns out, though, that Abigail is a vampire. And she's not trapped in the house with them. They're trapped in the house with her. And so the movie sort of follows that path. This is bloody and gory and should deliver the kinds of thrills and chills that genre fans will be looking forward to. And Alicia Weir is great as this young vampire. So I like this one. I gave it 3.5 out of 5 stars, and it's in theaters now.
Okay, I like it when you give some of these horror movies a higher score, because that means I can definitely go and see it and not be a waste of time. Okay, and next up we have something called Sasquatch.
Sasquatch Sunset, this is called. It's in theaters this weekend, and this is very definitely, I think probably without a doubt, and I know it's only, what is it now, April 19th. I know it's a little early in the year to declare this, but this is definitely going to be the weirdest movie that gets released this year. It is Jesse Eisenberg and Riley Koch starring as the mother and father of a group of Sasquatches. They live in the forests of the Pacific Northwest. They do all the things that you might expect Sasquatches in the wild to do. And for the first half hour or so, this almost kind of feels like a National Geographic nature documentary with some funny parts thrown in. They don't speak, they grunt, and they make a high-pitched howling kind of sound. But then the movie turns a little bit more poignant as human life starts to encroach on the life that these Sasquatches have been living for hundreds and hundreds of years. But definitely, this is a weird movie. This is Quest for Fire with poop jokes. It does have a poignant thing for you, but I have to describe this, for my purposes anyway, as being unrateable. It'll either be 0 stars or 5 stars, depending on your commitment to the premise. If you go in and you're ready to see Sasquatches just do Sasquatch things, I think you'll probably get a kick out of it. I will tell you that the last line of my written review reads like this: the slow pacing and sheer audacity of the idea will separate the movie's friends from foes, but even skeptics will have to admit making and releasing a Bigfoot movie this odd in 2024 is no small feat.
I love the pun. Okay, very good, Richard. Yeah, I was going to say, if you like Chewbacca or Bigfoot, this one's for you. Okay.
Maybe so, yeah.
And finally, I was really into this. I managed to watch the first episode. This is a show called The Sympathizer about kind of, the fall of Saigon, Vietnam War. And we had Hua Shan-day, the star of the show, on our program.
Yeah, this is on Crave right now, and it's based on a best-selling novel about half French, half Vietnamese person who is a spy during the final days of the Vietnam War. Then we cut to his new life as a refugee in Los Angeles, and he kind of discovers that his spying days aren't quite over. This is Robert Downey Jr. The showrunner here is Don McKellar, the great Canadian filmmaker and director. He sort of oversaw the making of this, and it's stylish, it's slick, gives Robert Downey Jr. a chance to do something that, in a way, we've never seen him do before, which is kind of interesting watching his career post-Marvel as he sort of spreads his wings once again and takes on kind of interesting and different projects than we know him for. Called The Sympathizer, and it's on Crave right now.
Yeah, and Don said that he really wanted to, focus on telling it from the Vietnamese side of the story. So very interesting there. All right, Richard Krause, thanks so much for your picks, and we'll chat with you soon. Have a great weekend.